From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
It's time for the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTimeAngles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I hope you are feeling the same. It is Thursday, the 27th of July, 2023. You know, just in case you just woke up after a 20-year slumber or something of that nature and things like that, and this is the first thing that you cut on. So, pretty much we do have we kind of have a sports day that is a little light because we got early double hitters. We got basketball games starting at 12:30 in LA. You know, so pretty much we got kind of a light schedule today, so it's more sports talk than anything. But we do have a very big event coming up on Saturday, and today is the final presser for it as well too, and that's going to be for the Crawford and Spence fight. Final presser for Crawford Spence. What is the feel as we are just mere days away from the biggest fight of the summer? I know a lot of people want to say the biggest fight of the decade, the biggest fight of the 2020s, the biggest fight of 2000s. Spence Crawford is a very anticipated fight because they're kind of like new kids on the not new kids on the block, but it's kind of like it's not what we're used to. You know what I mean? And I think that it's going to be a very good fight, but you got to understand that there's a reasons why this fight is getting bet the way it's getting bet, the way the odds are getting put out and things like that. It's because Terrence Crawford is 17-0 in world title fights. All right. And Errol Spence is 7-0. But when it comes to odds makers, they're always a little bit more enticed to put the guy that they're more familiar with as the favorite. And I'm not saying that they're not familiar with either guy, but I'm just saying that they're used to Crawford being the favorite and Crawford being a dominant favorite. Spence is, to me, truly the favorite of the fight because all the measurables are in his favor when you look at it. But when it looks at the experience of world championships, then that's where Crawford gets to be the favorite. But in retrospect, I think that it's more about Spence when it comes to the actual fans who feel who the better fighter truly is. And I've heard more people talk highly about Spence and heard more people talk about they feel like there's somewhat of a decline for Crawford because they haven't seen him fight much. But Crawford does have something on his resume that's very enlightening. He's knocked out everybody at 147. This is the highest weight class he's ever been in, and that's absolutely phenomenal. Usually your power starts leaving you by the time you start moving up in weight as you get older, but it's like his power came with him and got even better. So it's going to be a real chess match in this fight because you have two guys with the best boxing IQs that you could ever put in the same ring at the same time. But when it says that, is this the fight of the century? I doubt it because the century has, 77 more years to it. So pretty much this is just this week's big fight because in a few months, they'll be talking about Canelo Charlo being the fight of the century. So this fight right here is one that's just been over anticipated, and it's finally here. And it's a fight that people thought they were never going to get. And usually the fights that you feel like that you're never going to get, but you've demanded it for so long, they usually wind up being something that kind of, it kind of winds up being a little overrated. But I don't see that happening with this fight. I see two guys who are very focused and very adamant about not losing to each other. And that's what makes this such a good fight at the end of the day, because you know that neither one of these guys are going to half-ass the situation. And that's what makes it an absolute superb fight. And literally, these guys built this fight the correct way. And it's exactly on time, as I would like to say. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and move forward. Let's jump into our next topic, and that's going to be Bryce Young, already looking like a vet and is in the mix to be named starter week 1. Can he make an instant impact? Well, let me take that back because I put that in before I started reading some articles this morning, and it looks like that Bryce Young has already been named the starter of the Carolina Panthers. So he'll be the starter week 1. And he's looking very good in practice. A lot of people are very excited about what they see. I saw a throw that he made the other day, and only about 5 guys in the NFL right now can make that throw happen in a game. And literally, this was practice. This guy is very cerebral. I'm not going to put him in the echelons of great quarterbacks yet, but his mentality is approaching that. The way that he takes the game is a very good sign about what to expect from Bryce Young. Bryce Young plays this game like it's the only thing going on in life, and pretty much that's so commendable at the end of the day. And I just truly feel that this guy is a lot more special than people want to give him. If he was another shade, then it would be nothing but Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck talk when it comes to Bryce Young. But a lot of people have their skepticism because he's a 5'10 guy, 5'11 guy. But what people got to understand is the guy's still growing as well, too. So it doesn't mean that he's going to might just stick at 5'10, 5'11. The guy might wind up finishing around 6 foot 6'1". You know what I mean? You never know, because, you know, stretching drills and working out and all that stuff, those things can happen. But when you look at the way that the situation sets up for the Panthers, they need a signal caller like Bryce Young. You need leadership. When losing Cam Newton, it was all about the fact that they lost a great leader. It wasn't just a great talent in Cam Newton that, you know, skills kind of tailored off. It was a great leader in Cam Newton who loved his team. And I think that they haven't had that since Cam. And when Cam made his quick return to the team, they won right away because Cam is a great leader. And he just loved playing for the Panthers. I feel like Bryce can do the same thing here, where he can take instant impact on this team. You know, a lot of people had a lot of doubts about Cam Newton going into his first game. And all Cam did was throw for 415 yards. I saw the game live. I remember watching the game on Red Zone, and I was absolutely floored that he could still do the same thing that he was doing in college, but in the NFL now. And I feel like that's going to be Bryce Young as well, too, because the guy's prepared for the moment. And that's what you have to be in today's NFL. They don't have a lot of patience on having you learn the system. This is why the NFL runs 13 months out the year. Yeah, you see, I said 13 months. It feels like they never take time off, even in the offseason. And Bryce is a rookie, so he's literally in the team facility every single day, like the top student in the honors program, AP program. And he's so into that playbook, and it's just making a difference because his teammates see that, and then they want to be more accountable as well too, because they know at the end of the day, if they're not accountable, they're not going to be there for long. And when you have a quarterback like Bryce Young, you want to be there as long as possible to see his progression. And I truly do feel, I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit because I want to save a lot of this for when we get to NFL Bet Exchange and all this stuff, but it's okay to bring up things again. And I truly do feel that this team has to be considered as one of the dark horse teams to win a division because they're in a wide open division this year. And I truly do feel that their number is very intriguing for a division that really doesn't have a standout team. So, with that, let's go ahead and move forward to our next topic in hand, and that's going to be the Rams. Rebuild is in full swing, but the expectations are still high at training camp. Well, Sean McVay knows that they're a young group, and he knows that he's lost a lot of veterans, guys that were very key to the team, that were very key to their Super Bowl as well, too, that they're 2 years removed from. Also, this team has pretty much dealt with their worst season since moving to Los Angeles. Well, since the first season of moving to Los Angeles. They hadn't had a losing record since Jeff Fisher was there. And I felt like McVay was very out of touch with what was going on last season. After they lost Matt Stafford, after they lost Cooper Kupp, I felt like Coach lost interest. And I felt like Coach was thinking about his future endeavors more than actually improving the team on a weekly basis. I'm sorry to say it like that, but I just truly felt like Sean McVay's competitive spirit was absolutely down last year, and down to the point to where it was like he might walk off from this thing. But Stan Kroenke did exactly what I would have done as an owner, and you tell him, no, you're not getting out of this because I gave up a lot of real estate to make sure you won that Super Bowl. Now you got to sit up in here and you got to deal with this team and you got to build them from scratch now. I did everything possible to get you everything that you needed to win a Super Bowl. We went ahead and accomplished that feat. We came back around the next year. I didn't overpay anybody, but I kept most of the roster intact. And you guys absolutely were awful last season after week 6 or so. But that was because they had injuries as well, too. But that's because they weren't being led the same way that they were being led up under the Sean McVay regime. Sean McVay was so comfortable at being heralded as this whiz kid coach in that pretty much whatever he schemes up on the offensive end will work. And that doesn't come to fruition if you don't have the personnel to do it. They went and got players who were terrible fits for the team on the offensive side last year. And it's just really simple why the Rams struggled. Their defense was not up to par the way that it usually is because you didn't have Aaron Donald be the most dominant force in all of football. And when he's the most dominant force in all of football, that makes this team more uber confident. And it's crazy that they wasted Bobby Wagner as well, too. That's what just makes you just be like, what happened to the Rams last year? It's simple. The Rams were very comfortable with winning that title. It's really not hard to see and hard to tell. And pretty much it happens to teams that kind of fell into a Super Bowl instead of actually looking like a team that looked like a Super Bowl champion. You know what I mean? Because we all feel like everybody can keep it real. They kind of fell into winning that title because the Bucs game, if plays go different ways, Bucs win that game. 49ers game, if plays go different ways, 49ers win that game. Bengals, if plays go certain ways, they win that game. The Rams literally played 3 games they should have lost. Let's keep it real. And pretty much they won those games. That's where you say you can't knock them for anything because they won all the games that they were supposed to win. So this puts the Rams in a position where the pressure is on. And the Rams have never been a good team when the pressure is on. The Rams were seen as a team that were really good when they won the Super Bowl, but they were a part of a group of other teams that people saw as Super Bowl type teams as well too. And that wound up being a great parity season, and the Rams went ahead and got to celebrate on their home field. Now it's not that easy for the Rams. Let's keep it real. The Rams are in a position now where they're in a division where 2 teams are already ahead of them. And they're trying to put themselves in position to be back with being the dominant team in the NFC West, which they were for a good 3-4 year stretch up under McVay. So there's a lot of things that they got to work out this year. But McVay is literally building from the bottom now. And this is good because now we can see if he can truly coach. That's the whole thing, because he's always been blessed with the type of roster that you don't have to do much but do some fine tuning to it. But he's always proven that he does know exactly what he's doing out there when his team is in one unison. You know what I mean? So Sean McVay still has the trust of the front office for now, but this season is going to be really telling on how they evaluate the long-term future with Sean McVay as well, too. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. And this one is kind of breaking in a sense. This one kind of comes out of left field, but not really, because I've felt like for the last few years this team was a little unhappy about their positioning in the Pac-12, and with the lack of TV deals and things like that coming into play, Colorado knows that, pretty much the writing's on the wall. This conference is literally in the ICU, and it's beep beep beep, because UCLA and USC leaving is a monster blow. But if you got Colorado leaving, this is the death blow. Let's keep it real, because Colorado just brought in Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders was brought a attention to the conference that was kind of needed. It was like getting a top recruit to come play for your school, and you got the best recruit in the nation. And so pretty much now Colorado has became a marketable situation, and they know this, and they know that they got to pay their coaches, and they got to make sure this NIL program is frothy and it has plenty of bank to it as well, because I've started to notice that the colleges are taking on the responsibility of the NIL. That's great that you have a company and you want to buy a kid, but they're not going to let you do that if you're going to go ahead and NIL a kid that's going to their school. They want you to deal with the NIL director, and then you can go ahead and offer the kid some money. And pretty much I think that's the right way to do it, because we've had too many cases where you have people handing these kids absurd amounts of money, and then the kids have a change of heart on the school that they're going to, and now they're kind of forced to go to the school because they've taken the money. And one guy decided not to go to the school, and the guy asked for the money back. It wound up being $2 million. And I don't know if he had the money to get back to him, but they figured something out to the point to where, it wasn't going to be any hard feelings or anybody being sued. But this is where it's such a slippery slope with the NIL. And teams like Colorado know that they can benefit from the NIL if they're in the correct conference. And they know that their team is more suited for more of a mountain type situation, more of a Midwest type situation where you're kind of traveling the nation and playing other schools. You know what I mean? And not just playing, these allotted schools here on the West Coast. Colorado's rival back in the day was Nebraska. They were a Big 8 team. So they're going back home. That's what they're doing, because they pretty much are trying to go back to the Big 12, because they see that the Big 12 is very, very wide open, because now there's no more Texas and Oklahoma after this year. Now we can have a conference to where everybody gets a shot at possibly being able to get to the playoffs, get better ranking, things of that nature. And they have a very lucrative TV deal with Fox as well, too. So that's why you look at the Big 12 and you say, I'm coming home, because the Pac-12 never really lived up to what they sold to Colorado. Colorado was just felt like they were kind of in bad shape because they were overlooked a lot and they felt forgotten. And when they didn't have Nebraska there anymore, they didn't have a key rival to really say, let's stick around and stay. But now when you have teams like BYU coming, you have teams like Cincinnati coming, you have Houston coming, you have UCF coming, those teams entice you to want to come play in that conference again. And knowing that the Nebraska is kind of unhappy with their situation in the Big Ten, and we know somebody's leaving the Big Ten, or maybe two teams are leaving the Big Ten before by the time UCLA and USC get there, because they're going to want some more more attention or more a better way to recruit. And I'm just going to keep it real. I think Nebraska is on the brink of leaving the Big Ten once it's official that Colorado leaves, so then they can hook this rivalry back up again. And I wouldn't be too surprised if Maryland said, you know what, let's go back to the ACC. You never know. Or Rutgers says, you know what, let's go over here to the AAC, go back over here to the AA, back on over here to the AAC, aka the old Big East, which really isn't the old Big East anymore because most of those teams have pretty much left. So with that, pretty much Colorado has became a very intriguing situation, in my opinion. And I think that they know that the better portion of their athletics program is the basketball program. They got a really good basketball team. The basketball team is consistently around that bubble of being in the tournament or being in the NIT or always being a team that plays a very big part in preseason upsets. So I know them going to the Big 12 opens up the recruiting pool to the point to where now I can bring in some of the best players in the nation to this basketball team as well. So this is very interesting, very intriguing, and I'm going to follow this story very closely. So it looks like that Colorado is truly on the brink of going back to the Big 12. I saw the news yesterday, but it hasn't been finalized yet. I know that they need to go through some measures, but it looks very likely that they're going back to their old conference. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. And when I get back, we're going to be talking some baseball. We got trades going on. We got some pretty good baseball games in general going on right now as well, too. And also, you know, we got a big weekend coming up for a lot of teams who are trying to keep themselves in pennant races or keep themselves ahead in pennant races. So you guys stay tuned to the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, and I'll be right back at you.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune into Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we are back with the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. Let's go ahead and jump into some Dodger news. Dodgers have, we all know Kike came back. Kike's back. Now the Dodgers have picked up Ahmed Rosario, who's a very, and you wish they would have got the other Rosario who absolutely shredded them a few years back with the Braves. You wish they would have been able to get him. You know, he was a former Guardian as well, too. But the Dodgers are thinking just like them, the Braves as well, bringing in a guy like Rosario, who's very good against left-handed hitting. And he's a guy that, you know, can get on base. He's not a home run hitter or anything like that, but he is a speed demon. And the Dodgers are in very much needed that because the Dodgers always need some rabbits, and they've been missing those for the last few years. You know, you can't ask Mookie Betts to be a guy like that because he's a 5 tool. He's an all-around guy. So he does a bit of everything, and you don't want to risk any injuries with Mookie, with him stealing too many bases and things like that. But with Rosario, you have that element now. You can bring this guy in, and you can alternate him and Rojas as well too. So this is pretty good, and this is something that is very intriguing with the Dodgers moving forward, because this is just the beginning of deals that they're making. The Dodgers do have some good farm players in place for some big deals that are going to go down this weekend as well too. I think the Dodgers are in the market to bring in another starting pitcher, because they got the hitting situation out the way. Now they got to go get some pitchers. I think the Dodgers might be eyeing 2 starters possibly, and a possible closer as well too, if they're not already set with Evan Phillips, because it seems like they are. So pretty much the Blue Crew daily. Dodgers lose their first series of the second half, but trade for 2 bats in the last 2 days, as I just mentioned. So the Dodgers stay ahead of the game somewhat, because they were able to win yesterday. Diamondbacks, I think they lost yesterday. I got to check the standings real quick, but the Dodgers will need to start picking it up a little bit, because this week was kind of this first series. I had a feeling that the Dodgers would probably have some issues, because they hadn't been at home in almost 2 weeks. And so now you come back home, you're fresh off the plane from Texas, and pretty much you got to go against a team in the Blue Jays that came in red hot. And the Blue Jays literally have won their last the Blue Jays came into the game playing great baseball, but really they were playing kind of a game where it was like, well, they're kind of struggling coming in as well too. So they had lost 2 series in a row after winning 4 games in a row. And then they come to the Dodgers, probably the one series that you say to yourself, they'll probably not win this one, because, it's the Dodgers. And they wound up stepping it up, because they knew that the competition was different and it was better. And they know that they're in position right now to be in the mix to actually steal the division. They're 5.5 games behind the Orioles at this point, and they're actually 4 games behind the Rays. So they're in good position to steal things right now. And that was a big effort for them yesterday, because they wound up winning this game 8-1. Both the first games were pretty close, where they were going back and forth a little bit. But yesterday, they just stepped on the gas really early. They were up 6-0 by the top of the 6th inning. The Dodgers were like, well, wave the white flag. We'll be okay, because we got a day off and we got the Reds coming in this weekend. And the Dodgers want to get this get back against the Reds too, who took 2 or 3 from them and actually won both of those games by coming back from 6 runs down. So the Dodgers got that bitter taste in their mouth right now to get some revenge in that spot. Now, the Giants did get some traction on the Dodgers yesterday. They won 8-3, and the Diamondbacks actually lost 11-7. So when you look at the standings today, you have the Giants, who are now 3 games behind the Dodgers, while you have the Diamondbacks, who are 4 games behind the Dodgers. And I'm just going to throw them in here because their fans just thought that they were going to be the greatest team since the 1927 Yankees, and they are 10 games behind them. And guess who that is? The Padres. So, pretty much that's what happens when you try to put the cart before the horse. So you have a very good weekend coming up for the Dodgers. When I look at the Dodgers schedule for the rest of the month, this is a very important series for the Dodgers to win, because it's the final series of the month, and you want to set the stage for August as well too. The Dodgers had won their last few series. They had a good little stretch where they won 6 games this month. So the Dodgers wound up having one of their better months of the year. Now they have the Reds to finish up the month this weekend, and in the first 7 games going into next week, they'll have Oakland and San Diego, and they actually have a 4-gamer with San Diego that goes Friday through Monday, and then they got Arizona right behind that, and then another 4-gamer with Colorado. So this team is actually not going to be off. It looks like for the first, this team is only going to have 1 day off here in the first 14 days of the month, 15 days of the month, I mean. So that's kind of rough right there. So they play 13 games in a row, okay? And the Dodgers just pretty much that's a breaking point in the season to see how tough this team is mentally at this point. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But the Dodgers seem to be in good shape with these 2 trades, and I do expect more trades to be made as well too. So if you have some player that's your guy and you love and things like that, you might be ready. You can't be shocked if they part ways with them. It's just the game. That's all it is. So let's move forward. Let's talk about some MLB Thursday real quick. And you know what? We do have deals going on right now. Carlos Santana was just traded to the Brewers from the Pirates. So the Pirates are pretty much saying that, you know, they know that 20-7 situation was kind of fluky because now they're 45-57 at this point. So that means that this team actually is 25-50 since that time in their last 75 games, since starting the season off 20-7. So pretty much they had a really great month, and everybody in baseball is entitled to a really great month. That doesn't mean that your team is making the change. And Cincinnati, they went on a little run, but they were consistent with their little run. So they find themselves a game and a half out, and they are in the playoffs if we started the playoffs today. So pretty much you have a very breaking news right now. I don't want to get too far into it, but Joe Burrow just was carted off the field for the Bengals, and it's a knee situation. So hopefully it's not that same knee that required surgery where it saw him blow out his PCL, ACL, and his MCL. So pretty much it looks like that it's going to be a lot of news going on because Jalen Ramsey actually had to be carted off the field as well too. And sometimes people have to understand they just do it as precaution. They just don't want the guy to keep walking. You know what I mean? Because they don't know what's wrong with him. That doesn't mean that they tore an ACL or anything of that nature. It could be a sprained leg. It could be a sprained ankle. They just got to make sure that they don't have the guy walking around. So let's get back to baseball. The Angels required Lucas Giolito. That was huge because they needed pitching, and they pretty much said that, you know what, we're all in. We're trying to get to the playoffs this year with Ohtani to show Ohtani that we're serious about winning. Everybody's so quick to already have him off the Angels. You don't know if Ohtani wants to leave the Angels or not. And this is a great measurement to show that they are very in tune with keeping him around. They're not thinking about giving him up. They're pretty much saying that we're willing to take on the highest bidder right now because we want Ohtani as an Angel. Everybody else wants him off the Angels, but you're not making decisions for Ohtani. And the Angels know that. So that's why the Angels went ahead and said, you know what? He's not on the market anymore. We're going to show him that we're serious about winning. We're going to go get you another pitcher. And then we're going to try to get some more hitters as well, too. But we know what we got to do. We got to go get some pitching. And the Angels did exactly what people have been asking them to do for the last decade. So pretty much they're trying to get themselves in the playoffs. And everybody acting like 4 games is a lot. 4 games is not a lot, especially when you're chasing 2 teams in your division as well, too. So if they get Houston again, wind up sweeping Houston, that's huge. If they wind up playing the Rangers again very soon and sweeping them, that's huge because they're gaining ground on these teams, and they know that they've had both those teams' numbers this year. So why just wrap it up right now? No. They've went without Mike Trout before. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out, but it's looking pretty parody-like in the MLB right now. A whole lot of fun going on. And Lance Lynn is actually possibly headed to the Rays as well too. But him and the Dodgers are kind of are trying to get him as well too. But I wouldn't really be chasing Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn is kind of on his last leg. But let's talk about the first game that I have here, and it's going to be the Cubbies. 50-51. The Cubbies playing great baseball at this moment. I don't care what anybody says. The Cubbies are playing much, much better. They are the third team outside looking in on the playoff situation right now. They're 4.5 games out from that spot, but once again, this Cubs team can get hot at any point and find themselves in the playoffs because they have the roster for it. But with the Cubs, from what I've been hearing and the rumblings that they're talking about right now, is they're pretty much saying that it looks like they're going to be getting rid of some key players like Cody Bellinger, who they said that is going to probably be gone at some point today. You know what I mean? Or at some point this weekend. Also, they said Stroman's pretty much gone as well too. You know what I mean? So you got those two in hand, but you still got to understand that when it comes down to it, this will be one of the better trade deadlines for everybody because everybody's getting some help in a sense. Teams that are looking for assets who are on the farm, they getting the assets for the farm. And teams chasing the playoffs or teams chasing seeding in the playoffs, they're getting the guy that could put them over the top to possibly win a World Series or get you to a World Series. So this is always a fun time in the year, and you got to understand, baseball got the best all-star game if they stop coming up with their own jerseys and actually, really being able to play the game. And they got the best trade deadline as well, too, because they pretty much set the standard for everybody. But when it comes down to this game, you got Justin Steele on the mound for the Cubs. You have a very good pitcher on the mound for the Cardinals tonight as well, too. I'm trying to get that picture for you guys as well because I had it here, but then it slipped away. I hate when you dealing with your phone and it wants to go to everything but what you want to go to. Miles Mikolas is going to be on the mound. So you got Justin Steele, who gave up two earned last time out in 6 1/3 innings and actually struck out 9. So, he's been pitching pretty good and was against St. Louis last time out. So he's had his way with St. Louis. The last 2 outings against St. Louis, he's actually wound up only giving up 3 runs and striking out 17. In both games, he went 6 innings in both of those. So, pretty much it seems like the advantage is to the Cubs tonight, even though Mikolas is one of their better pitchers as well, too. And last game out, he did give up 5 runs, 11 hits, and 3 strikeouts, and that was to the Cubs. So the Cubs were kind of feasted on this guy last time they seen him. So they're probably going to get a little excited when they see him tonight again as well. And knowing how this situation is working, Mikolas is probably doing some will probably be doing some auditioning for some teams that are interested in a starting pitcher. So tonight with this one, I think that I'm just going to be a little basic here, and I'm going to go ahead and take the Cubs money line minus 105 tonight. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our next game, another in a central rivalry, and it's in the AL this time. You got the Cubs. I'm not the Cubs, but you got the Sox and the Guardians. These two teams absolutely hate each other, just like the Cardinals and Cubs hate each other. And, the Sox and the Guardians, formerly known as the Indians, go way back, way, way back, just as far as the Cardinals and the Cubs. So this is always a fun series when it starts. They're going 4 games this weekend, and the White Sox are cleaning house. So the White Sox are having their intention of not making the playoffs. It doesn't even matter that they're in a division where their top team was literally below 500 team half the year, but now find themselves 54-50 at this point. But the White Sox it's just a lost cause. They lost their last 7 out of 10. They're 12 and a half games back. They're 41-62. So that ticket that I have for them to win the division is absolutely in the grinder. So pretty much tonight they're just playing for they're just playing games until the season's over. Nothing matters anymore. You know what I mean? They just evaluating players on who's going to stay on the roster and who's going to be leaving the roster. It's really not that hard to see. But the Guardians are chasing the Twins because at the end of the day, let's keep it real. That's their only shot to make the playoffs is winning the division because there's too many teams ahead of them, and these teams are keeping a consistent winning culture going with their squads as well too. So I don't see the Guardians getting in the wild card route, but I can see them still getting in through being the Central champs once again because they did win the Central championship in the same type of fashion. We're at this point last year, they're down 3 or 4 games. Next thing you know, they go on a little run. They wind up winning the division by 10. So you can't sit up in here and say that, that 4 games is a lot because it's not at the end of the day. This is going to be a very fun finish. And we all know that every time the Twins and the Guardians get together and it's an important series, it seems like the Guardians have the upper hand. But this 4-gamer is very important for their run to get to where they need to get to. Next month, they're not going to play Minnesota until the end of the month. They're going to wind up playing them with 3 games. Then September, they play them 3 more times. And that's going to be the season for their matchups with the Twins. So pretty much they got 6 games to go with them, but they got to make sure that they keeping things afloat. They got to make sure that they're still consistent with their winning. So tonight, where we're going is we're on the scoreboard watch here. We got you got one of the better pitchers for the White Sox, and then you got Bibby on the mound for the Guardians. So I truly do feel like what happens here is that we're going to get some hitting tonight because, guys are over there loose right now because they know that they're rehearsing for possibly getting on a better team at this point if you're on the White Sox. And the Guardians just got to score runs. We know that. So pretty much I'm going to go ahead and take the over 8.5 in this spot. And that's where we're going with this one right here. So pretty much with that, we're going to go ahead and take another quick commercial break. And when I get back, we got Talking Tickets, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. So you guys stay tuned. This is the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, we're back with the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles. So let's go ahead and jump into our Talking Tickets. And Talking Tickets looks a little bit like this. And pretty much with Talking Tickets tonight, we have ourselves, we don't have much. That's the whole thing. WNBA has a game going right now. But they got a game going later on this afternoon as well, too. Dream at the Liberty, Liberty at home. And it's crazy because the Liberty let me tell you the history about the Liberty's home situation. They started off in Madison Square Garden. Rebecca Lobo. Who else did they have? They had a homegirl from they had her teammate from UConn as well, too. So pretty much and I think they had Sells on that team as well, too, Nikisha Sells. Nobody talks about Nikisha Sells, but Nikisha Sells was a big-time player for UConn. Everybody talks about Rebecca Lobo, but the scorer was Nikisha Sells. You know what I mean? So, Rosati. So pretty much UConn, I mean not UConn, but the Liberty, you know, they got Sabrina Ionescu, and then they got Brittany Stewart. So they are the East Coast version of the Aces in a sense. You know what I mean? Because they went ahead and they added free agents and things like that. Tina Charles is still there as well too. So it's really good for this team and their market that they're playing good basketball, because it brings a lot of attention to the league. And the Liberty have just been so good at home. So I like them tonight with that -9. I think they go ahead and win this game by double digits or better. But that's always a tricky bet when they give you -9, because pretty much they want you to lean towards the dog in that spot, because literally they try to say that this team probably can't beat them by 10 or better. You know what I mean? But I think tonight that 9 is the right bet. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move from there. Then we got the over 89 first half, and that's I feel like there's just going to be scoring going on in the first half, because the Dreams score a lot of Dreams score a lot of points, the Liberty score a lot of points. So I feel like they will collide in that facet or form, and we'll get ourselves the over 89 first half here. So let's see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. And then that's the first quarter, okay? -2.5 to the Liberty. And I think this should be a hitter as well, too. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. Let's move on to our MLB plays for tonight. And in the MLB, we got the double play 3-1 with the Cubbies at -105. And then we have the over 8.5 with the Guardians and the White Sox. And that's going to be our plays for tonight. And I had already explained that to you guys when we were breaking down both of those games. So that's our segment, Talking Tickets, right there. And tomorrow I'll be back. I wasn't able to do Jeff's show today. They had some internet problems over in Cape Cod, but he'll be back with us tomorrow at noon for the Primetime Angles. And then next week, hopefully Wednesday, we will have the first episode of the NFL Betting Shades. Not us breaking down any preseason games or anything like that, but it's going to be us breaking down divisions and win totals and things of that nature. So then you guys can know exactly where you're going to with your winning future bets. So guys, make sure to tune in for that. And also this afternoon at 4 p.m. Pacific time, I will be on the Mike Abadir show on Voice America. So you guys can tune into that as well too. That's online radio. So just go ahead and type in Voice America. I'm going to tweet it out as well too. And you guys go ahead and listen to the show today. And you also can call into the show as well too if you do want to talk to me and Mike. So with that, that's going to be a wrap on today's show. And as I always like to say, bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving. And this is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, hosted by the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. And I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.